but I revisited all my thinking about average stats today, and I think I know why we had this weird result that if a player with weak higher tier troops and a player with stronger stats but weaker tier troops send troops in a battle, it looks like the system is how do we call it? It's benefiting the weaker player, right? So it looked like if you are a weaker player and send higher tier troops, you get more kills than the other way around, which was one point in the first video that I made, which I didn't understand really and looked a bit weird. But I think there's a reason for it, and the reason is that can I share my screen? Let me try. Can you see this spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay, the case I'm talking about are these two, right? You have a city with higher stats and a city with weaker stats. So in the first test, we sent 500 units each. I think it was snipers. T8 snipers have a base damage of 151, and T2 snipers had a base damage of 44. And at the end of the battle, the stronger player with the T8s killed 2,487 troops, and the weaker player with the who sent the T2 snipers killed 664 troops. And the second test I made is I switched. So the city with the weaker stats sent the T9 troops, and the city with the stronger stats sent the T2 troops. And it was a bit weird that the result is the stronger city does less kills than the weaker city with the T2 troops. And the reason is that you have much less overall firepower. Because if the weaker city with the T8s attacks, you just kill less units of the enemy in one round than you would do if you send the higher stat player with the T8 troops. And so the enemy has more troops left to kill your troops. And because the game mechanics is that the lower tier troops die first, that's the reason why we have this strange outcome in kills. I think we can prove that better if we just send or if the defender just has as much troops as one kill cycle or attack cycle of the attacker's army can kill. That's pretty complicated what I told you, but I hope you understand it in in any way.
Yeah, so my takeaway there is using buffed stats to average, and that's why you're getting a higher overall average in test 1, because the higher base stat is getting the higher buff.
Right, and
whereas
way,
in test 2,
way more troops of the enemy, and if the enemy has less troops, he can kill less of your troops in the next round, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and in this combination of the test 2, we have a significant lower buffed total sum, whatever you want to call it. So you kill less troops. And because the T2 troops die before the T8 troops, the stronger player loses more troops and kills less troops than the weaker player would do. And at this point, all makes sense again for me, and stats averaging is a thing.
Have you done any testing where you have sent different numbers of units?
Yes. And it's
Okay.
totally. So basically, what happens is you have like an array, right? You have your units, you have the base damage of the units, and you have the stats buff. And what happens is that all this goes into a pool, and it looks like the kill distribution at the end of the battle is not based on the overall damage you would do, it's only based on the base damage you send into a battle. Right? If you only send one tank and the other guy sends 2,000 tanks, you are just not noticeable in the result.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious. Yeah. Okay. I have some other questions, but I need to think about how to frame them.
And that is, by the way, is also the reason why we think that Titans stack. They don't stack. They use exactly the same array and the same formula for the output damage, but there are no Titan damage boost stats. You know, it's always 1 or 100%. There is no buff that gives you 28 more Titan attack. Titans always go into a battle with their base damage.
Yeah, on the HP side of things, though, like the Titans' HP would stack, right? And that's why your Titans are living longer.
Yeah, right. But also the attack stacks, it's the same.
Yep. Yeah. And then, okay. Sorry, I'm just clunking through this in my head.
Yeah, and if you read all the special kills of the Titans, all the skills are doing damage at the end. So there is not the attack versus defense calculation that we have with normal troops. So Titan skills always do instant damage. So they kind of skip the defense part of the enemy.
From a team attack perspective, then, though, for the skills that add troop stats in a team attack, that's gonna get factored in somehow in averaging, right? Like that's the source energy guard averaging that takes place. So if it's troop related, it averages, and so those are going to be priority skills for players who are predominantly participating in group attacks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always get a headache when I think too much about this topic, but the more often I do it, I'm just more convinced about stats averaging. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah, the trick is then. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and it's a weighted average, which is pretty important to know. So it's not like 3 players send their troops and it's divided by 3. No, it's the base damage they send into a battle. So the number of units and their tier troop, that's what's important at the end for the kill distribution, and the buffs of the players, that's averaged over the whole pool to calculate your troop attack against the enemy group's troop defense. So yeah, I think I have to make a picture.
I had a question. The whole weighted average was really throwing me off, because a weighted average should mean that each individual's contribution is not lowered. It's just kind of summed in. So I've noticed that with the taxon tests, that the tax numbers are always scaled as weighted average, and it shouldn't have a net impact. But obviously in group attacks, I see the results too. So I'm kind of confused with that disconnect. I was hoping you could kind of explain it a little bit more, and then I have a working theory to run by you afterwards.
Okay, I think you have to rephrase the question again for me, please.
Okay, so weighted average. Let's say strong player contributes, 100 troops with 100 attack. And then weak players contributing, which is 10,000 attack. And then a weaker player is adding 50 troops with 20 attack. So that's 1,000. So the total sum of the attack done is still the same as a weighted average to the opponent. So it's still 11,000 attack being done as a weighted average.
Here, sorry for interrupt you. If you look at the spreadsheet, so we have these two players. The first one sends his T8 snipers, the other the T2 snipers, and we have in different stats. So the total sum of this and this is this 145,000 attack.
Right. And if you added that up individually, you'd still get to the same.
Yes.
I think the issue... I'm sorry.
By numbers alone, as a weighted average, another weaker player jumping in and contributing more troops as a weighted average wouldn't have an impact on the individual's attack being done.
I think the problem is you got to take into account the stat buff, which will probably be lower per troop, right?
Right.
And so even though you're getting the same base attack value, you're actually getting a lower overall attack value.
Yeah.
And so, sorry.
No, that's I think that's right. Or that's how I...
So the base attack value is different, meaning what?
The number that gets put into the troop stat bucket for the new player entering ends up lowering the attack per troop. So like the base attack might be the same because you've increased the number of troops sufficiently to reach that base attack number, but then you have to take into account the stat buff. And so even though you've added enough troops on the base attack side, you're still not adding enough attack when you factor in the stat buff, which gets, at least based on this spreadsheet, gets factored in on the averaging.
Yeah, and I think
so
in the end... Yeah, go on.
Go ahead.
No, you first.
So I did it. I factored in, damage and breakthrough stats and all that, and it's still, the attack value of the troop displayed on the attack screen still was exactly proportional to a weighted average.
So, and you're saying though that the team attack still did worse?
Yes. So I did a test where I had one strong city attack and just could barely attack the enemy. And then when I would add a weaker player in with just 10% of the troops, the battle would swing to a loss. So I agree when a weaker player is added in that it has a negative impact. Kind of a working theory I had was because kills and losses are averaged out too, is if a weaker player joins, their troops are going to die quicker, but the game's going to just prorate those losses out amongst everyone the same within that troop type. So if they're killing the weaker player's troops quicker and kill off, the weaker player's 50% of the troops and they kill that, then the stronger player would take 50% of the losses as well, which would then reduce the damage output.
Are they the
Will
same
only
troop
take-
tier?
Yeah, he will be right.
Yes.
Troop tier is important at this.
I'm
Yes.
just listening to something.
So it's.
I'm talking within the same troop tier.
Themselves. I thought in the group.
No, right.
What did you say? Why? And he said, well, they didn't
And I
write a
think
message
the
saying
takeaway
we're
is
ourselves.
that
Wait,
you want to
Everybody
send
will
the
say
higher
that.
troop
Everyone
tier
has
you
seen the
can.
left, and then they will explain to the boys why.
I think I have to mute Doc 955. Sorry. Go ahead, Bert. Big
I
Bird.
think if you're trying to optimize your battle performance, everybody needs to send the same troop tier. If you want to share losses, then you need to start thinking more about programming that in for your higher level cities.
Yeah.
Because
Sorry, guys, I wasn't on mute. Apologies.
No problem. Birdie. Big Bird, did you want to add something or are you finished?
I'm done. You can go.
Okay. No, I just asking. Yeah, it's complicated, but it's there and it makes sense. And honestly, the best summary of stats averaging is what Clue wrote in my channel. Less is more until more is more, which pretty much says if you have a target and you know it's could be a trap or something like that, it makes totally sense to just send your highest tier or your best players, like your 10 hitters, to that target, unless you have like 60, 70 in the background who can also speed in. In that case, go with all. But there's some kind of break-even point in all this calculations, and you can calculate it. You can't calculate it in a battle in a KE or something like that. You have to make a decision. Could it be pretty difficult to win? So I only send my 10 hitters, and they can retreat if it's going bad, right? Or do I just overcome all the counter force by brutal numbers?
Yeah, there's a tipping point, right?
Yeah, and I also did some experiments, tests, whatever on defense and attack, and all that, and can you see this graphic? Yeah, right. So what's shown here is the ratio between attack and defense, right? So if there's 10 time attacking 10 time attack against 1 time defense, like a cannon has T30 cannon has 1,600 attack points. If you calculate it per unit, that's 320. And if you attack a shredder with a cannon, you go 320 against 138. So this is a ratio of roughly 2, right? So that you get an understanding about these ratios. And when you see this line, you see if you would make like ratio 2 attack defense, you would do something like 35% of your attack as damage. Can you follow on this?
Yeah, so I think what this shows, right, is if by increasing the numbers sufficiently, you increase your overall pool of attack points,
Right.
vis-a-vis a static number of defense points from a single defender, then you're gonna start doing a greater proportion of your attack as damage, and then it's going to be more effective.
Right. And what's important to know is that it's not a linear, so you send a double amount, or you have the double amount of attack to defense ratio, you make double damage. No, not the case. It's like a logarithmic hard cap at the end. So to bring 60% of the damage to the enemy, you have to have a ratio of 28 times the attack of the enemy defense to do 60% of your attack as damage. Right? But you only need a ratio of 1.5 to do 30%, which is half of it. And that's the reason why also huge number of players can overcome a certain amount of super no, let me start again. So this hard cap is the reason why I think the game is not totally doomed yet. Because at some point, it doesn't matter if the whale your attack has 2,000 or 2,400 defense or melee HP, because the battle engine doesn't care at some point how much higher the enemy's stats is, right? Silence.
So are you, if I understand what you're saying then, and sorry, I joined quite late, but are you saying that there's only a point that you need to go to in terms of HP and defense before it becomes meaningless or less effective?
Less effective, not meaningless, but
yes.
But you always have a chance to do damage, and with higher numbers you can do more damage. But you need to find this point and to overcome this point. If you don't do that, you get slapped really bad. So that's pretty much yeah. And what's really important to know is these numbers are interpolated from this point to here, right? So I could only test with my cities, like what was it, 10 T1 against T8 troops. So I had a ratio of like 18 times attack against defense. So this is pretty validated, right? But what you have to keep in mind is that if you have 500 defense and the attacker has 1000 attack, that doesn't mean he makes double damage, right? It's like it's this hard capped curve, and as higher the stats are, as lower is the gain in damage you do additionally. That's pretty hard stuff for Friday afternoon.
You're not kidding.
Yeah, but
I do have one. Sorry, I was just going to ask a question. Probably you covered before I joined, because I've been doing some of my own testing regarding the troops based on your previous YouTube videos.
Yes.
And I've been testing tier 12 snipers against tier 12 snipers with 2 players. One, with just 5,000 each, so no Titans, no planes. And I was getting similar results to what you got, right? The kills were exactly the same, even though and the losses were the same, even though one was a C41 and one was a C37 with massively different stats. So that kind of validates what your tests had done. I just wanted to see it for myself. But what I haven't done is looked at the different levels of troop. If I'd have sent T10 snipers and the C41 had sent T12, I assume the battle algorithm calculates those entirely differently.
Yeah, that's this scenario here in the end, right?
Yeah.
You send. So I'm pretty sure that the kill distribution is made up with the base damage, not the buffed stats you send into your battle. So it's no point if you have 200, 500, 700 or 1000 attack buff. Your kill distribution will be measured with the base damage you send into this battle. I think I could validate this on point with Titans. And I think because this damage calculation and these arrays work all the same for troops and for Titans, that's exact the same result. If you send different tiers, you just have your proportional base damage you send into a battle, and that's your kill distribution at the end.
Right. So if you were to set a weak player was to send tier 2 in this case against the as well as the strong the T8, then the weak tier 2 is not reducing the stats or the kills of the strong T8, but he will, if obviously the overall he will kill less.
He will
you can
kill
see
less
that, right?
in this example than in this example, because in this example we lose way more of the weaker troops, because the stronger player has the weaker troops and can't kill as much enemy troops as he could in the first battle.
Right. I'm just concerned about some of our weak players going into battle with the stronger players and the stats difference is affecting the outcome. With my simple test of just the T12 snipers, I know the C41, if he'd have just sent 10,000 snipers, he would have killed way more than the 4,000 that we killed each when we both sent 5,000 each, right? He would have probably killed, I don't know, 20-odd thousand, because I'm basically dragging his stats down for the same troop level, right?
Right.
So it's about how what of your whole alliance membership, what distribution of troops. Now, in a real battle, he's going to be sending T13 tanks, and I'm going to be sending T11. So mine shouldn't reduce his stats, right?
It reduces his stat in a way, because I think it works like this. You have one of these arrays for every troop type, right? So perhaps for tanks.
Yeah.
And because you only see one unit of tanks on the battle screen, right? And all the tiers and base damage and stat buffs goes into this one array and calculates an output for damage or defense or HP.
Right.
And depending on the stat for attack, I think you get this overall buffed attack damage, which is handed into the next bucket against the defense of the enemy. If that's calculated, it goes into the next bucket where you place the damage increase and damage reduce stats, right? So that's calculated in a second step. And if that all is done, it's gonna be handed over to the HP of the enemy and subtracted there. That's how I think this engine works. So
Right.
you have.
So do you think it's more? So if I'm understanding this right, then does that mean it would make more sense for the higher level players to send, for example, T13 tanks, and the lower level to send shredders, so they don't affect the tanks?
Yeah, this can be an option, right? So first place, T12 shredders are way better than T11 tanks. So that's in any case better to do.
Sure, yeah, sure. But we've got C36s and 5, so they've only got tanks.
For
but
everything
they
else,
would make sense.
We can come back to less is less, less is more until more is more. So if it's yeah, I have to give props to Clue for this sentence. It's so true. And I don't think
unfortunately, none of us know when less is less and when more is more, do we?
That's kind of an art to predict this point, right? But if you understand some of the base mechanics of the game, and also that we have not a linear damage increase with higher stats, we have this hard cap at the end, and if you can get this all together and can pull numbers, I think you don't have to think about it too hard, right? If you are in a well-played alliance, you get a feeling for what you can do and what you can't do over time, right? You can try in frenzy or whatever to hit a whale with 30, 40 people, or only with your hitter team, and can try to get your range what you can take down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But also always have in mind that if you have significantly different stats, this will have kind of impact on the outcome or the result of the battle.